Wink, Chapter 12, Throckton. This seems like a good time to talk about how I met Dr. Throckton, the man with all the answers. The morning after Dr. Popsicle told me they were going to take my eye out and then blind me, I had no desire to get out of bed. None. But I did lie there looking at things in my room, toys, action figures, trying to memorize them for later. Like, if I went blind, would I remember what Homer Simpson looked like? Or would my memory of him slowly morph over time into some weird mutant Homer? Then my eyes fell on the framed picture of my mom on the dresser. I went over to get it and lay there for half an hour trying to memorize every detail, every curl in her hair. I couldn't forget. I wouldn't. I mostly remember her from this picture. I was just about to turn 5 when she died, so one of the main things I remember is the feeling of lying next to her on the couch while she was sketching. She always smelled of fresh laundry. I could seriously go for some lying next to Mom about now. Then I went to my closet and pulled out a small leather photo album. My mom put it together for me before she died. It's full of photos of us together, some with my dad, too. Some are just of her. The two of us at Kings Island, a person in a Scooby-Doo costume standing between us, her feeding baby me, some kind of yellow stuff all over my face. One of my mom, her head back, her hair messed up, laughing so hard she had tears on her cheeks. For some reason, I try to only pull this out on rare occasions, like her birthday. It makes it more special. I stared at her face in all those photos and wondered how she'd felt when she had cancer. It was like we had a new unfortunate connection, and I may have missed her more right then than I ever have. I found one of all three of us on the front steps. I looked 3 or 4. My mom's mouth was smiling, but I couldn't stop looking at her eyes. Were they smiling as well? Did she know she was sick when it was taken? Was there just a hint of fear in her eyes, or worry? It was hard to say for sure, but there was something so warm and human there, I didn't want to stop looking for answers in them. Near the back of the album, I've tucked a small note under the protective plastic. Mom wrote it, or wrote it for me, just after I turned 4 when we were putting away our Christmas tree. A fake tree. My dad's allergic. We found it the year after she died, or at least my dad says we did. I don't really remember. It was in the bottom of the tree box in a red envelope. Dearest future Ross, hello. How was your past year? I hope it was amazing. It's snowing the day I'm writing this. Do you remember? It's beautiful. I'm having cocoa and it's so good. I just wanted to say hi and remind you to have a great holiday. Your pal, Past Ross. My dad explained to me at some point that my mom sat down with me and wrote this. It was something she had done as a kid and was hoping I'd make a tradition. When you take the tree down, you slip a note in there for your future self. I've done it every year since. He also told me my mom was in remission when she wrote this, so the cheery tone was real. I lay there and read the note a few times until my eyes got all watery, and then I carefully put it back in its protected spot. Eventually, I got out of bed and put the photo album back. I spent a long time in the mirror trying to imagine myself with a fake eye. I mean, I already felt weird with just a hat and a bald spot. How was I going to... Was I going to look like the Phantom of the Opera? Would I scare small children? I made a mental note to look up facial prosthetics, but I wasn't exactly rushing to the computer. I was pretty sure I wouldn't like what I saw. My dad and Linda were at the kitchen table. Linda was next to my dad, rubbing his back as they sat and read their Kindles. Probably reading the books Dr. Popsicle recommended. When I walked in, they quietly set them aside and gave me their full, concerned attention. Hey, bud. My dad jumped up, wiping his eyes and looking away. For the first time, I realized he was at least as scared as I was. Want some breakfast? I can make hole-in-ones. Or scrambled? I shook my head, looking around the kitchen. Again, I was memorizing. I couldn't stop. We'd lived in this house since I could remember. If I looked over at the frog-shaped cookie jar, was there a chance it would be the last time I'd see it? I'm not really hungry. The thought of eggs made me car sick. He nodded. Okay, sure. Wanna go do something? You name it. I don't think... Is it okay if I just go down and play a video game? Absolutely. He gave me a weak smile. You do you. I have some people that should be calling back. We may take you for a second opinion to another doctor, or... Linda reached over and rubbed my arm. You just go take it easy, okay? Yell up if you want me to bring you anything. She smiled. Anything. I went to the basement and didn't put on a game. I just ended up lying on my back, thinking, zoning out. I may have drifted in and out of sleep a couple of times. At some point I got up and tried navigating around the furniture with my eyes closed. A blindness test run. The more I felt my way around, the more panic tightened up in my chest. That lasted until I racked myself up pretty good on a bar stool. That was enough practice for the day, so I went into Annihilation Moon Zone. A little before noon, my dad's phone rang, and a few minutes later I heard the door to the basement open. My dad came down the steps quickly, and when I turned, I saw something like hope on his face. He was still holding the phone. "Who is that?" I asked, not really expecting much. My dad took a shuddery, deep breath. "That was Dr. Scheffler. He has someone we need to talk with." At 3:18 that afternoon, I met Dr. Throckton. As he came into the room, I spotted a partially eaten Pop-Tart sticking out of his coat pocket. He was carrying a clipboard, a couple of folders, and a Scrabble mug dripping coffee. His hair was messed up, which gave him a mad scientist vibe, but when he introduced himself, he was all business. He shook my hand first. "You must be Ross. Thank you for coming to see me." He looked over at my dad and Linda. "I'm glad Dr. Scheffler insisted we meet, and thank you for having the scan sent over." Back to me. "Ross, you have a very interesting case." Dr. Throckton was apparently some sort of miracle worker with proton radiotherapy. I was really hoping so, at this point. He foot-hooked his stool over in that effortless way they must teach in med school, rolled over to a computer and waggled the mouse to wake up the screen. It filled with a black and white scan of a brain. My brain. And my eyeballs. My tumor. My dad couldn't take the suspense. "So, do you think you can help?" "Oh, yeah." Throckton took a sip of his coffee. "I can save Ross's eye." We all sat there for a second. "You mean the good eye or the other one? I don't..." He smiled. "I mean both of them." He turned to me. "Don't let them take your eye, Ross." Dr. Throckton shot immediately to the position of favorite person ever for all time and earned the nickname Man with All the Answers. My dad and I still call him that. Then he began to talk and explain, and within 5 minutes I knew I was in a room with the smartest person I'd ever met. He took us through the scans, little cross-sections of my brain and eyes and the tumor, and talked about them until they made sense. He explained all about proton radiotherapy in a way that made me feel smarter just hearing it. It turns out it's different from traditional radiation. With protons, they can zap just the things they want to zap, and not the stuff they don't, like my good eye. "Now, Ross, you will lose the sight in your right eye, but we won't remove it, or the orbit." I thought about that for a few seconds. I could deal with that, especially given the alternative. "I'm okay with one blind eye, I guess." Throckton nodded. "I thought you'd be, given the alternative." He looked relieved that I'd taken it so well. "And it'll take a while for the vision in that eye to go. It's not an instant thing." "Okay, but not in the good eye." He nodded. "Not the good eye. We'll protect that one with our life." And just like that, we had a new plan. Have surgery. A much less severe one than my left eye, that left my eye intact. Recover. Get zapped a couple months later. I walked out of there like a boss. I was going to go through a difficult surgery and 8 weeks of radiation and lose the sight in one of my eyes, and yet I felt like $1,000,000. Chapter 13. Play that funky music. The day after the bad Halloween, or the night of the memes, is a Saturday, and my radiation is scheduled for 9 a.m. I'm awake and dressed by 8:30, waiting on the stairs for my dad. He doesn't ask what happened the night before, but I feel the curiosity coming off him in waves. My mind is surprisingly focused, given how incredibly upset I was the night before. The waiting room is empty, so I sit with my jaw set and listen to the aquarium's bubble for what feels like forever. When I finally hear the electric doors open, I'm off the couch moving. Frank comes through, smiling. "Ross, did you..." I cut him off. "Can you teach me guitar?" He stops. His smile shifting, he looks off for a second, thinking. I suppose so. I've never taught anyone, but I could try. He squints at me, puzzled. What's up? You okay? I waggled my head and my hand. Not really, no. Also, I don't have a guitar. Frank nods for a few seconds. That's okay. I've got you covered. So, okay, I breathe. Crack a couple knuckles. It feels like blood is flowing back into my body for the first time since Abby told me about the memes. So, okay. He's still nodding. Small, thoughtful nods. Come on. After my treatment, I text my dad so he can come inside and talk with Frank. The niceties out of the way, I get straight to business. I put on my most serious face. Dad, I've asked Frank to teach me guitar. Dad looks back and forth at us, his eyebrows up. Guitar? Okay, you give guitar lessons? Nope, never even thought about it. Frank shakes his head. But I play. A lot. I guess I'm willing to give the teaching part a try. I'll have to check that it's okay with the bosses here, but yeah. My dad looks back at me, caught off guard. Even though Abby's been after me to take up an instrument for a couple of years, I've never shown the slightest interest. And I've hated every second we've had to play the recorder in 5th grade. We end up sitting in the waiting room while my dad and Frank sip coffee, discussing how this would work. I can tell my dad is unsure about this bearded, shaggy-haired tech at first, but Frank gets him laughing a few times, like I knew he would, and I can see my dad relax. Frank suggests we both come by his house the next day after Ripe Sponge gets done with their practice. Ripe Sponge? Frank gives his head a sad shake and holds up a hand. Yeah, that's good band, horrible name. It's a long story. Fair enough. My dad looks over at me. What are these lessons going to cost? He seems more amused than concerned. Frank finishes a sip and swallows quickly. Oh, no. Let's try a couple first. On me. I may very well be terrible at this, but if not, we'll figure something out. And just like that, it's settled. That night, Abby has some big dinner with her family planned. Her dad got them reservations at Abby's favorite place, an old steak place called Django's Little Zagreb, with steaks the size of a hubcap. I mentioned she's not a dainty eater. Her dad says they are having a family meeting, whatever that means. We text a couple times on their way to Janko's, mostly about how Destroy All Monsters is on at 11 on some obscure channel. She agrees to text me after dinner. I hang out in my room and listen to the mix, trying to run through the faces of the kids in my school. Who'd be the type to make those memes? I don't have many suspects, but one face keeps popping into my mind. Jimmy, a.k.a. Mr. Spit. If there's a kid with a legendary mean streak in our school, that's the guy. I must fall asleep, because at some point I'm jolted awake by my phone buzzing. It's Abby, which is really weird. She communicates by text almost exclusively. Occasionally she'll FaceTime, but she literally never uses her phone as a phone, so something's off. I answer, and the first thing I hear is a loud, snotty sniff on the other end. I think she's crying, and my heart stops. Abby? What's wrong? She sniffs a couple more times and blows her nose. Ross! Something isn't good. I have news. Bad news, okay? I bolt upright in bed. Is everybody okay? Yeah, it's not like that. As she speaks, I realize she isn't crying quite as hard as I thought, but it sounds like she was recently. Do you remember my dad was talking with his brother about that job in Minnesota, working with him? Now I see the punch coming. In slow motion, but there's nothing I can do to stop it. I take as deep a breath as my lungs will let me. Yeah. He's taking it. We're moving to St. Paul, where my uncle's family is. She caps it with a little sad intake of air. I'm stunned. Her dad has talked, off and on, about going to work with his brother, some kind of software business that is doing really well, but it's always been just dinner table chatter, nothing that might actually happen. I started to speak, and it's hard to get the words out when the rock that's suddenly stuck in my throat. When? She sniffs. Christmas break? Like, as soon as we're done with school? They put it off till then for me in school, or else we'd be going now. Christmas break? That's like 2 months from now. She lets out a small, yep, and I let that sink in. Wait, Seriously? This isn't one of your... Seriously. She cuts me off. Pinky swear. Unfortunately. I scoot back so I can lean back against the headboard. I'm looking around my room, searching for the right thing to say. I don't want that. It sounds stupid and awkward as it comes out. Abby lets out a sad little sound, like a mixed sigh with a groan. I know. I don't either. Am I gonna barf? I may barf. A horrifying thought occurs to me. Oh, man. First Isaac, now you. I'm gonna have to make new friends. She laughs. Kind of. Right? Me too. I'll be going to my cousin's school, but still. Abby has a cousin in St. Paul, her same age, named April. Super popular, cheerleader, all that. You'll be fine. You've got April and her friends. Abby sighs. April's a twit. You've met her. She's right. April is a twit. Also, don't lump me with Isaac. Another sniff. I can tell her nose is almost stuffed shut. This move isn't my choice. Sorry. We sit in total silence for a couple minutes, which is a long time in phone silence. The rest of my public school career yawns in front of me like a huge, friendless question mark. Abby's too. Wow. It doesn't even sound like my voice. Yeah, wow. So, I guess let's just... We'll talk about it more soon. I guess tomorrow? Okay. I run a hand through my hair. Yeah, we'll sleep on it and, I don't know, talk about it tomorrow or something. Okay. Her voice sounds so small for Abby. Sorry about last night. I freaked out. No, I get it. Good night, Ross. Then she's gone. I sit there staring off into space for maybe 20 minutes. Then I decide to put Frank's CD mix back on. It helps. Sort of. Chapter 14. Gentlemen, start your guitars. I tell my dad and Linda about the Petersons moving over breakfast, and my dad is genuinely shocked. It's not like he and Abby's dad are best friends, but they play tennis with a group of guys sometimes. Wow. I knew he'd talked about it, but... Then his eyes change, and he looks back at me. Buddy, I am so sorry. Linda, who's been carefully dusting and straightening one of my mom's landscape paintings, she does that a lot, comes over to give me a hug and a kiss on the top of my head. Oh, honey, are you okay? I had a good friend move away my sophomore year of high school. It's so hard. I look up at her. Are you still good friends with her? She looks sorry. She looks like she's sorry she brought it up. Yeah, I mean, we send each other cards over the holidays. She sits down and awkwardly adjusts the spider decoration in the middle of the kitchen table. No one's taken the Halloween decorations down yet, but skulls and ghouls seem appropriate for my mood. Turns out, Frank doesn't live too far from us, only a few miles or so, but his area has a lot of houses for IU students. The lawns aren't really taken care of, at all. There are a lot of old couches and lawn chairs on front porches. The house next to his has a faded Bud Light "Welcome Race Fans" banner hanging from the porch railing. My dad pulls up slowly, squinting at Frank's house. It's a dark, ugly brown, and it's set back from the road under several big trees, all of which makes it seem a little less inviting. Okay, it's not too bad. It reminds me of a house I shared after college. Let's go check it out. My dad's talking slow, like he's convincing himself this is a good idea. There's a gaping hole in my stomach. I can't stop thinking about Abby's move, but I hop out before he can change his mind. I try to keep him distracted as we make our way up the gravel driveway. I think we had a pool just like that one when I was little, didn't we? There's a broken plastic kiddie pool in the yard on the other side. A couple of faded cans are floating in murky water at the bottom. Yeah, he looks like he's waiting for someone to jump out of the bushes and corrupt me. Yeah, we did. Frank comes out onto the porch, screen doors squeaking. He's wearing a black button-down shirt and jeans, and I realize I've never seen him in anything but scrubs. It's weird. Welcome, Ross! Welcome, Ross's dad! He raises a can of Diet Coke and salute. The band just left, so we actually have the place to ourselves for once. Come on in, I'll show you the palace. When we step in, I'm actually impressed. Most of the furniture is fake black leather and showing signs of serious wear. But it's clean, and the house smells okay. There's a scented candle lit in the middle of an old trunk that's being used as a coffee table. Some of the area rugs have seen better days, but it looks like the hardwood floors have been swept. The back wall is made up of bookshelves overflowing with vinyl albums and stack after stack of cassettes. I point at them. You know, you could put all that on an MP3 player that'd fit in your pocket. Frank rolls his eyes. I don't like my music broken down into ones and zeros. I allow the occasional CD, but only under protest. He looks over at my dad, who smiles and gives that makes sense nod. I get that. I like a hiss and a pop. It adds character. Frank raises his eyebrows at me. See? Your dad gets it. In front of the dining room table are 2 acoustic guitars, propped on metal stands like they're waiting for us. So, Frank waves a hand around. This is where the magic happens, as they say on music television. I don't know what that means, but it makes my dad laugh. You ready to have sore fingers, Ross? I look at him, unsure how to respond. He walks over and grabs the older-looking guitar. Trust me, they're gonna hurt. For a while, but you'll build up calluses. He holds out the guitar. I don't think I've ever held one. I take it and feel its weight. He motions for me to put the strap over my head. I do, and everything about it feels right. Not to be a total dweeb, but I can't help but think of Luke holding a lightsaber for the first time. Okay, yeah, I regret saying the lightsaber thing now. That's the guitar I liberated from my cousin way back. I taught myself on it. It's a solid guitar. A Yamaha. My dad is smiling. Your cousin didn't want it back? Frank sets his can down on a faded Rolling Rock coaster. Nah, he caught the hunting bug that year and never looked back. He'd won it in a school raffle or something anyway. Never even tuned it. My dad nods, giving one last look around. Okay, all right. So I'll get out of here and leave you guys to it. He pulls his keys out of his pocket. Apparently convinced Frank's house isn't a danger zone. I'll be back in an hour. We agree, and he heads out. Frank waits until the screen door slaps behind him and clasps his hands together. All right. He points at the fridge. Beer? I must look shocked because he laughs. I'm kidding, Ross. Just a little icebreaker. Now go sit in that chair. Let's do some guitaring.